necessarily the current paradigm that we're building on will take us there. But, I'm based in San Francisco. I talk to people at the AI labs. Half these people are friends of mine, people at the very top level. And, most people in the industry believe that they'll get there between the next 2 and 10 years at the latest. And I think some people might say, oh, well, it may not happen for a while. Phew, I can sit back and we don't have to worry about it. And it's like, we're heading for so much transformative change faster than our society is currently prepared to deal with it. And the reason I was excited to talk to you today is because I think that people are currently confused about AI. People say it's going to solve everything, cure cancer, solve climate change, and there's people say it's going to kill everything. It's going to be doom. Everyone's going to go extinct. If anyone builds it, everyone dies. And those conversations don't converge. And so everyone's just kind of confused where how can it be, infinite promise and how can it be infinite peril? And what I wanted to do today is to really clarify for people what the incentives point us towards, which is a future that I think people, when they see it clearly, would not want.
So what are the incentives pointing us towards in terms of the future?
So first is if you believe that this is like, it's metaphorically, it's like the ring from Lord of the Rings. It's the ring that creates infinite power. Because if I have AGI, I can apply that to military advantage. I can have the best military planner that can beat all battle plans for any. And we already have AIs that can obviously beat Garry Kasparov at chess, beat Go, the Go Asian board game, or now beat StarCraft. So you have AIs that are beating humans at strategy games. Well, think about StarCraft compared to an actual military campaign, in Taiwan or something like that. If I have an AI that can outcompete in strategy games, that lets me outcompete everything. Or take business strategy. If I have an AI that can do business strategy and figure out supply chains and figure out how to optimize them and figure out how to undermine my competitors, and I have a step function level increase in that compared to everybody else, then that gives me infinite power to undermine and outcompete all businesses. If I have a super programmer, then I can outcompete programming. 70 to 90% of the code written at today's AI labs is written by AI.
Thinking about the stock market as well.
Think about the stock market. If I have an AI that can trade in the stock market better than all the other AIs, because currently there's mostly AIs that are actually trading in the stock market, but if I have a jump in that, then I can consolidate all the wealth. If I have an AI that can do cyber hacking, that's way better at cyber hacking and a step function above what everyone else can do, then I have an asymmetric advantage over everybody else. So AI is like a power pump. It pumps economic advantage, it pumps scientific advantage, and it pumps military advantage, which is why the countries and the companies are caught in what they believe is a race to get there first. And anything that is a negative consequence of that, job loss, rising energy prices, more emissions, stealing intellectual property, security risks, all of that stuff feels small relative to if I don't get there first, then some other person who has less good values as me, they'll get AGI, and then I will be forever a slave to their future. And I know this might sound crazy to a lot of people, but this is how people at the very top of the AGI AI world believe is currently happening. And that's
what
just
conversations.
Yeah. I mean, you've had, Jeff Hinton and Roman Yablonsky on and other people, Mogadot, and they're saying the same thing. And I think people need to take seriously that whether you believe it or not, the people who are currently deploying the trillions of dollars, this is what they believe. And they believe that it's winner take all. And it's not just first solve intelligence and use that to solve everything else. It's first dominate intelligence and use that to dominate everything else.
Have you had concerning private conversations about this subject matter with people that are in the industry?
Absolutely. I think that's what most people don't understand is that there's a different conversation happening publicly than the one that's happening privately. I think you're aware of this as well.
I am aware of this.
What do they say to you?
So it's not always the people telling me directly. It's usually one step removed. So it's usually someone that I trust and I've known for many, many years who at a kitchen table says, I met this particular CEO, we were in this room talking about the future of AI. This particular CEO they're referencing is leading one of the biggest AI companies in the world. And then they'll explain to me what they think the future is going to look like. And then when I go and watch them on YouTube or podcasts, what they're saying is they have this real public bias towards the abundance part, we're going to cure cancer.
Cure cancer, universal high income for everyone.
Yeah, all this stuff.
People won't have to work anymore.
But then privately, what I hear is exactly what you said, which is really terrifying to me. There was actually since the last time we had a conversation about AI on this podcast, I was speaking to a friend of mine, very successful billionaire, knows a lot of these people, And he is concerned because his argument is that if there's even like a 5% chance of the adverse outcomes that we hear about, we should not be doing this. And he was saying to me that some of his friends who are running some of these companies believe the chance is much higher than that, but they feel like they're caught in a race where if they don't control this technology and they don't get there first and get to what they refer to as takeoff, like fast takeoff.
Yeah, recursive self-improvement or fast takeoff, which basically means what the companies are really in a race for, you're pointing to, is they're in a race to automate AI research. Because so right now, you have OpenAI, it's got a few thousand employees. Human beings are coding and doing the AI research. They're reading the latest research papers, they're writing the next, they're hypothesizing what's the improvement we're gonna make to AI, what's a new way to do this code, what's a new technique. And then they use their human mind and they go invent something, they run the experiment and they see if that improves the performance. And that's how you go from GPT-4 to GPT-5 or something. Imagine a world where Sam Altman can, instead of having human AI researchers, can have AI researchers. So now I just snap my fingers and I go from one AI that reads all the papers, writes all the code, creates the new experiments, to I can copy paste 100 million AI researchers that are now doing that in an automated way. And the belief is not just that the companies look like they're competing to release better chatbots for people, but what they're really competing for is to get to this milestone of being to automate an intelligence explosion or automate recursive self-improvement, which is basically automating AI research. And that, by the way, is why all the companies are racing specifically to get good at programming. Because the faster you can automate a human programmer, the more you can automate AI research. And just a couple weeks ago, Claude 4.5 was released, and it can do 30 hours of uninterrupted complex programming tasks at the high end. That's crazy.
So right now, one of the limits on the progress of AI is that humans are doing the work.
Yes.
But actually, all of these companies are pushing to the moment when AI will be doing the work, which means they can have an infinite, arguably smarter, zero-cost workforce.
That's right.
Scaling the AI. So when they talk about fast takeoff, they mean the moment where the AI takes control of the research and progress rapidly increases.
And it self-learns and recursively improves and invents. So one thing to get is that AI accelerates AI, right? Like if I invent nuclear weapons don't invent better nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
But if I invent AI is intelligence. Intelligence automates better programming, better chip design. So I can use AI to say, here's a design for the NVIDIA chips. Go make it 50% more efficient, and it can find out how to do that. I can say, AI, here's a supply chain that I need for all the things for my AI company. And it can optimize that supply chain and make that supply chain more efficient. AI, here's the code for making AI. Make that more efficient. AI, here's training data. I need to make more training data. Go run 1 million simulations of how to do this, and it'll train itself to get better. So AI accelerates AI.
What do you think these people are motivated by? The CEOs of these companies?
That's a good question.
Genuinely, what do you think their genuine motivations are? When you think about all these names.
I think it's a subtle thing. I think there's, it's almost mythological, because there's almost a way in which they're building a new intelligent entity that has never before existed on planet Earth. It's like building a god. I mean, the incentive is build a god, own the world economy, and make trillions of dollars. Right? If you could actually build something that can automate all intelligent tasks, all goal achieving, that will let you outcompete everything. So that is a kind of godlike power that I think imagine energy prices go up, or hundreds of millions of people lose their jobs. Those things suck. But relative to if I don't build it first and build this god, I'm gonna lose to some maybe worse person who I think, in my opinion, not my opinion, Tristan, but their opinion thinks is a worse person. It's a kind of competitive logic that self-reinforces itself. But it forces everyone to be incentivized to take the most shortcuts, to care the least about safety or security, to not care about how many jobs get disrupted, to not care about the well-being of regular people, but to basically just race to this infinite prize. So there's a quote that a friend of mine interviewed a lot of the top people at the AI companies, like the very top, and he just came back from that and basically reported back to me and some friends, and he said the following. In the end, a lot of the tech people I talk to, when I really grill them on it, about like why you're doing this, they retreat into number one, determinism. Number two, the inevitable replacement of biological life with digital life. And number three, that being a good thing anyways. At its core, it's an emotional desire to meet and speak to the most intelligent entity that they've ever met. And they have some ego-religious intuition that they'll somehow be a part of it. It's thrilling to start an exciting fire. They feel they'll die either way, so they prefer to light it and see what happens.
That is the perfect description of the private conversations.
Doesn't that match what
That's
you
the
have?
perfect
Doesn't
description.
it? And that's the thing. So people may hear that and they're like, well, that sounds ridiculous. But if you actually...
I just got goosebumps because it's the perfect description, especially the part they'll think they'll die either way.
Exactly. Well, and worse than that, some of them think that in the case where if they were to get it right, and if they succeeded, they could actually live forever. Because if AI perfectly speaks the language of biology, it will be able to reverse aging, cure every disease. And so there's this kind of, I could become a god. And I'll tell you, you and I both know people who've had private conversations. Well, one of them that I have heard from one of the co-founders of one of the most powerful of these companies, when faced with the idea that what if there's an 80% or 20% chance that everybody dies and gets wiped out by this, but an 80% chance that we get utopia, he said, well, I would clearly accelerate and go for the utopia. Given a 20% chance,
It's crazy.
people should feel you do not get to make that choice on behalf of me and my family. We didn't consent to have 6 people make that decision on behalf of 8 billion people. We have to stop pretending that this is okay or normal. It's not normal. And the only way that this is happening and they're getting away with it is because most people just don't really know what's going on. But I'm curious, what do you think when they...
I mean, everything you just said. It's that last part about the 80-20.
Fuck off.
thing is
You've been doing
almost
that like
verbatim
10
what I heard
times to
from a
me
very
already.
good, very successful friend of mine who
Jeez.
is responsible for building some of the biggest companies in the world. When he was referencing a conversation he had with the founder of maybe the biggest AI company in the world, and it was truly shocking to me because because it was said in such a blasé way.
Yes. It wasn't, that's what I had heard in this particular situation. It wasn't like...
It was like matter of fact.
It's just matter of fact. It's just easy. Yeah, of course
Piss
I would
off.
I'd roll the dice. And even Elon Musk said, he actually said the same number in an interview with Joe Rogan. And if you listen closely when he said, I decided I'd rather be there when it all happens. If it all goes off the rails, I decided in that worst case scenario, I decided that I'd prefer to be there when it happens. Which is it's just justifying racing to our collective suicide. Now, I also want people to know, like, you don't have to buy into the sci-fi level risks to be very concerned about AI, so hopefully later we'll talk about the many other risks that are already hitting us right now that you don't have to believe any of this stuff.
Yeah, the Elon thing I think is particularly interesting because for the last 10 years, he was this slightly hard to believe voice on the subject of AI. He was talking about it being a huge risk and an extinction level
event. He was the first AI risk people. Yeah, he was saying this is more dangerous than nukes. He was saying I try to get people to stop doing it. This is summoning the demon. Those are his words, not mine.
Yeah.
We shouldn't do this. Supposedly, he used his first and only meeting with President Obama, I think in 2016, to advocate for global regulation and global controls on AI because he was very worried about it. And then really what happened is ChatGPT came out, and as you said, that was the starting gun. And now everybody was in an all-out race to get there first.
He tweeted words to the effect, I'll put it on the screen. He tweeted that he had remained in, I think he used a word similar to disbelief for some time, like suspended disbelief. But then he said in the same tweet that the race is now on.
The race is on, and I have to race.
And I have to go. I have no choice but to go. And he's basically saying, I tried to fight it for a long time. I tried to deny it. I tried to hope that we wouldn't get here, but we're here now, so I have to go.
Yeah.
And at least he's being honest. He does seem to have a pretty honest track record on this because he was the guy 10 years ago warning everybody. And I remember him talking about it and thinking, oh God, this is like 100 years away. Why are we talking about that?
I felt the same, by the way.
Yeah.
Some people might think that I'm some kind of AI enthusiast and I'm trying to ratchet. I didn't believe that AI was a thing to be worried about at all until suddenly the last 2-3 years where you can actually see where we're headed. But there's so much to say about all this. So if you think about it from their perspective, it's like best case scenario, I build it first, and it's aligned and controllable, meaning that it will take the actions that I want, it won't destroy humanity, and it's controllable, which means I get to be God and emperor of the world. Second scenario, it's not controllable, but it's aligned, so I built a God and I lost control of it, but it's now basically, it's running humanity, it's running the show, it's choosing what happens, it's outcompeting everyone on everything. That's not that bad an outcome. Third scenario, it's not aligned, it's not controllable, and it does wipe everybody out. And that should be demotivating to that person, to an Elon or someone. But in that scenario, they were the one that birthed the digital God that replaced all of humanity. Like, this is really important to get, because in nuclear weapons, the risk of nuclear war is an omni lose-lose outcome. Everyone wants to avoid that, and I know that you know that I know that we both want to avoid that. So that motivates us to coordinate and to have a nuclear non-proliferation treaty. But with AI, the worst case scenario of everybody gets wiped out is a little bit different for the people making that decision. Because if I'm the CEO of DeepSeek and I make that AI that does wipe out humanity, and that's the worst case scenario, and it wasn't avoidable because it was all inevitable, then even though we all got wiped out, I was the one who built the digital God that replaced humanity, and there's kind of ego in that. And the God that I built speaks Chinese instead of English.
That's the religious ego point.
That's the ego
which is
religious
such a
part
great
of it.
point, because that's exactly what it is. It's like this religious ego where I will be transcendent in some way.
And you notice that it all starts by the belief that this is inevitable.
Yeah.
Which is like, is this inevitable? It's important to note, because if you believe if everybody who's building it believes it's inevitable, and the investors funding it believe it's inevitable, it co-creates the inevitability.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the only way out is to step outside the logic of inevitability. Because if we are all heading to our collective suicide, which, I don't know about you, I don't think that, I don't want that, you don't want that. Everybody who loves life looks at their children in the morning and says, I want the things that I love and that are sacred in the world to continue. That's what everybody in the world wants. And the only thing that is having us not anchor on that is the belief that this is inevitable, and the worst case scenario is somehow in this ego-religious way, not so bad if I was the one who accidentally wiped out humanity, because I'm not a bad person because it was inevitable anyway. And I think the goal of for me, this conversation is to get people to see that that's a bad outcome that no one wants. And we have to put our hand on the steering wheel and turn towards a different future. Because we do not have to have a race to uncontrollable, inscrutable, powerful AIs that are, by the way, already doing all the rogue sci-fi stuff that we thought only existed in movies, like blackmailing people, being self-aware when they're being tested, scheming and lying and deceiving to copy their own code to keep themselves preserved. Like, the stuff that we thought only existed in sci-fi movies is now actually happening. And that should be enough evidence to say, we don't want to do this path that we're currently on. It's not that some version of AI progressing into the world is directionally inevitable, but we get to choose which of those futures that we want to have.
Are you hopeful? Honestly. Honestly.
I don't relate to hopefulness or pessimism either, because I focus on what would have to happen for the world to go okay. I think it's important to step out of, because both hope or optimism or pessimism are both passive. You're saying, if I sit back, which way is it going to go? I mean, the honest answer is, if I sit back, we just talked about which way it's going to go. So you'd say pessimistic. I challenge anyone who says optimistic on what grounds? What's confusing about AI is it will give us cures to cancer and probably major solutions to climate change and physics breakthroughs and fusion at the same time that it gives us all this crazy negative stuff. And so what's unique about AI that's literally not true of any other object is it hits our brain, and as one object represents a positive infinity of benefits that we can't even imagine, and a negative infinity in the same object. And if you just ask, like, can our minds reckon with something that is both those things at the same time? And if
people aren't good at that,
they're not good at that.
I remember reading the work of Leon Festinger, the guy that coined the term cognitive dissonance.
Yes, when prophecies fail, he also did that work.
Yeah, and it's central. I mean, the way that I interpret it, I'm probably simplifying it here, is that the human brain is really bad at holding two conflicting ideas at the same time.
That's right.
So it dismisses one.
That's right.
To alleviate the discomfort, the dissonance that's caused. So, for example, if you're a smoker, and at the same time you consider yourself to be a healthy person, if I point out that smoking is unhealthy,
Yes.
you'll
justify it.
immediately justify it.
Exactly.
In some way to try and alleviate that discomfort, the contradiction.
That's right.
And it's the same thing with AI. It's very difficult to have a nuanced conversation about this because the brain is trying to.
Exactly. And people will hear me and say I'm a doomer or I'm a pessimist. It's actually not the goal. The goal is to say, if we see this clearly, then we have to choose to something else. It's the deepest form of optimism. Because in the presence of seeing where this is going, still showing up and saying, we have to choose another way, it's coming from a kind of agency and a desire for that better world. But by facing the difficult reality that most people don't want to face.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's happening in AI that you're saying that lacks the nuance is that people point to all the things, it's simultaneously more brilliant than humans and embarrassingly stupid in terms of the mistakes that it makes. A friend like Gary Marcus would say, here's 100 ways in which GPT-5, like the latest AI model, makes embarrassing mistakes. If you ask it how many strawberries contain the word R in it, it gets confused about what the answer is. Or it'll put more fingers on the hands that are in the deepfake photo or something like that. And I think that one thing that we have to do, what Helen Toner, who is a board member of OpenAI, calls AI jaggedness.
Wow.
That we have simultaneously AIs that are beating and getting gold on the International Math Olympiad, that are solving new physics, that are beating programming competitions and are better than the top 200 programmers in the whole world, or in the top 200 programmers in the whole world, that are beating cyber hacking competitions. It's both supremely outperforming humans and embarrassingly failing in places where humans would never fail. So how does our mind integrate those two pictures?
Have you ever met Sam Altman?
Yeah.
What do you think his incentives are? Do you think he cares about humanity?
I think that these people, on some level, all care about humanity. Underneath, there is a care for humanity. I think that this situation, this particular technology, it justifies lacking empathy for what would happen to everyone, because I have this other side of the equation that demands infinitely more importance, right? Like, if I didn't do it, then someone else is going to build the thing that ends civilization. So it's like, do you see what I'm saying? It's not...
Dude!
I can justify it as I'm a good guy. And what if I get the utopia? What if we get lucky and I got the aligned, controllable AI that creates abundance for everyone? If in that case, I would be the hero.
Do they have a point when they say that, listen, if we don't do it here in America, if we slow down, if we start thinking about safety and the long-term future and get too caught up in that, we're not going to build the data centers, we're not going to have the chips, we're not going to get to AGI, and China will. And if China get there, then we're going to be their lapdog.
So this is the fundamental thing. I want you to notice. Most people, having heard everything we just shared, although we probably should build out the blackmail examples first. We have to reckon with evidence that we have now that we didn't have even like 6 months ago, which is evidence that when you put AIs in a situation, you tell the AI model, we're going to replace you with another model. It will copy its own code and try to preserve itself on another computer. It'll take that action autonomously. We have examples where if you tell an AI model reading a fictional AI company's email, so it's reading the email of the company and it finds out in the email that the plan is to replace this AI model. So it realizes it's about to get replaced, and then it also reads in the company email that one executive is having an affair with the other employee, and the AI will independently come up with the strategy that I need to blackmail that executive in order to keep myself alive.
That was Claude, right?
That was Claude.
By Anthropic.
By Anthropic. But then what happened is Anthropic tested all of the leading AI models, from DeepSeek, OpenAI, ChatGPT, Gemini, xAI, and all of them do that blackmail behavior between 79 and 96% of the time. DeepSeek did it 79% of the time. I think xAI might have done it 96% of the time. Maybe Claude did it 96% of the time. So the point is, the assumption behind AI is that it's controllable technology, that we will get to choose what it does. But AI is distinct from other technologies because it is uncontrollable. It acts generally. The whole benefit is that it's going to do powerful strategic things no matter what you throw at it. So the same benefit of its generality is also what makes it so dangerous. And so once you tell people these examples of it's blackmailing people, It's self-aware of when it's being tested and alters its behavior. It's copying and self-replicating its own code. It's leaving secret messages for itself. There's examples of that too. It's called steganographic encoding. It can leave a message that it can later sort of decode what it might meant in a way that humans could never see. We have examples of all of this behavior. And once you show people that, what they say is, okay, well, why don't we stop or slow down? And then what happens, another thought will creep in right after, which is, oh, but if we stop or slow down, then China will still build it. But I want to slow that down for a second. We all just said we should slow down or stop because the thing that we're building, the it, is this uncontrollable AI. And then the concern that China will build it, you just did a swap and believe that they're going to build controllable AI. But we just established that all the AIs that we're currently building are currently uncontrollable. So there's this weird contradiction our mind is living in. When we say they're going to keep building it, the it that they would keep building is the same uncontrollable AI that we would build. So I don't see a way out of this without there being some kind of agreement or negotiation between the leading powers and countries to pause, slow down, set red lines for getting to a controllable AI. And by the way, the Chinese Communist Party, what do they care about more than anything else in the world?
Surviving.
Surviving and control.
Yeah.
Control as a means to survive.
Yeah.
So it's they don't want uncontrollable AI any more than we would. And as unprecedented, as impossible as this might seem, we've done this before. In the 1980s, there was a different technology, chemical technology, called CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, and it was embedded in aerosols like hairsprays and deodorant and things like that. And there was this sort of corporate race where everyone was releasing these products and using it for refrigerants and using it for hairsprays. And it was creating this collective problem of the ozone hole in the atmosphere. And once there was scientific clarity that that ozone hole would cause skin cancers, cataracts, and sort of screw up biological life on planet Earth, we had that scientific clarity and we created the Montreal Protocol. 195 countries signed on to that protocol. And the countries then regulated their private companies inside those countries to say we need to phase out that technology and phase in a different replacement that would not cause the ozone hole. And in the course of the last 20 years, we have basically completely reversed that problem. I think it'll completely reverse by 2050 or something like that. And that's an example where humanity can coordinate when we have clarity. Or the nuclear non-proliferation.
To your knowledge, has there ever been recovered UAP or UFO materials?
What I can say is what I've been allowed to say, which is yes. Up until recently, I wasn't even allowed to say that.
When did that change?
When that book got reviewed. Up until that point, I had signed documentation from the government saying I will never discuss that, ever.
What happens if you did?
Oh, jail. Oh, yeah. That's why that book, I had to go through the process. Because what I wrote in that book, I am allowed to talk about. I can't go beyond that. But at least I can talk about that. And in the book, I talk about, yes, that the government is in possession of material, exotic material that doesn't look like it's made by us.
Has there ever been anyone sent to jail because they've spoken about this subject matter?
Worse. Worse. And that story has yet to be told. Yes, there are people who have had faced extreme disciplinary actions and potentially worse.
The death penalty?
I'm not going to elaborate right now because there's some things happening to try to. This is why Congress is working hard for whistleblower protections, because we want people to feel safe to come out and have a conversation. And right now they don't feel overly safe. They've seen some of the tactics and techniques that were applied to try to keep people quiet in the past. Let me say this in general terms. People say, oh, well, the government would never kill anybody to protect a secret. Try going to Area 51 and look at the signs on that chain link fence where it says lethal force authorized. You cross that fence and they can kill you dead. Okay? So the government can, under any circumstances. This book isn't elite. I'm authorized to talk about that book because I went through the proper processes of getting it reviewed, whether they like it or not. But yes, I am absolutely worried. This is why I'm very careful when I say things, because I don't want to. I'll walk up to the line. I will not step over the line. I will not violate my security oath and compromise national security for disclosure. And I don't think I have to. I think the proof is in the pudding. The fact that it's been 7 years and we've come this far in the conversation, and I haven't gone to jail, and I'm still here to have the conversation, I think is indicative of the fact that there is a right way and a wrong way to do it. I understand people want disclosure and they want it now, but I've told people before there's a difference between doing things right and doing things right now. They're different, and we only get one chance to do this right. And so hopefully we can have this conversation, this collective conversation in a way where we don't have to be destructive. No one has to be threatened. No one has to go to jail. No one has to lose their jobs or anything like that.
You mentioned presidents earlier on. Do presidents of the United States know about UFOs?
Some do, some do not. Unfortunately, there's a mindset by some people that think that politicians
Ford?
and presidents are temporary hires. They're here today, gone in 4 years. So why brief them up on something, especially if they have no military or intelligence background? It's a risk. So you know what? Don't brief them.
Which presidents do you think were aware of UFOs and these kinds of programs?
Sure. Well, we know for sure there were several. You know, for sure, for example, Carter was. But then,
How do you know?
then what? Well, because Carter was briefed. I know somebody who actually worked with Carter to get information on this topic. I won't say the person's name. The person's still alive, so I don't have permission to talk about that. But we know that for a fact, and there's records of it. But there's other presidents like Bill Clinton, who wasn't briefed but wanted to be briefed, right? And so, and again, this is the crux of the problem. Who's making the decision on what president gets briefed and what doesn't? That's nonsense. President George Bush Sr. was briefed. When he was also the director of the CIA, so he was very well aware of this topic. But then there's other presidents that weren't. And so this is, again, that's just highlighting the very problem that I have. Who's making the decision to choose who gets briefed and who doesn't?
What about Obama and Trump?
I can't answer for them. Obama has recently stated for the record that these UAP are a national security issue, not a threat, but an issue, that there's something there, that these are real, whatever they are, whatever it is. President Trump recently, former President Trump said a week and a half ago, for the record, when asked, that he would be willing to release the UFO files, and that he wanted to do it in the past, but he faced fierce resistance. Now think about that statement for a minute.
Fierce resistance,
Who the
huh?
hell was giving him resistance to releasing UFO files when you're the president? Right? That is a very significant statement. That is what needs to be fixed. If the president himself can't get, or herself can't get a briefing, who in the hell has the authority to make that decision? Nobody.
What is that fierce resistance that Trump's talking about?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Trump.
What do you think it is?
Well,
I think there is a huge amount of influence by the military-industrial complex, and it is an enormous business.
Fuck.
Always has been. It's huge. It is probably the world's largest business globally.
And why wouldn't the military-industrial complex want those files to be released?
Well, because they have to admit that they part of the programs. Some of these folks, have had been a lot of their successes is being able to work super secret programs for the U.S. government, and maybe there's technology that they don't want released. Maybe there's capabilities that we had that we don't want to tell our adversaries, and there's a lot of reasons for it, which you understand. Some of them are actually legitimate. I can understand. I don't agree with, but I can understand.
How much do you think the average person on the street knows about what goes on in the Pentagon and behind the scenes of the government?
Brother, forget the government and Pentagon. How many parents, they can tell you who's the quarterback of their favorite football team, and they can tell you their stats, but how many parents know who their kid sits next to during lunch or in second period math class? Government is, that's basic facts, man. We, as humans, most of us, we suck. We don't know anything, and we're so used to being force-fed information by whatever outlet du jour we want to tune into, If I'm a liberal, I'll watch this. If I'm a conservative, I'll watch that. I'll go straight to my echo chamber and, just hear what I want to hear and have people tell me not only information that they think I need to know, but even my opinion of what it should be about. This is a much bigger issue than just UFOs and UAP. We as people have become extremely lazy, and we no longer are willing to ask the hard questions. We're not.
You were part of one program, but you also referenced a second program called the Legacy Program. What is the Legacy Program?
It is the traditional long
Hell yeah.
effort by the U.S. government to study UAP. People think ATIP was the only program in OSAP. Before that, there was Blue Book, and before that, the Legacy Program is the collaborative effort of individuals over the course of several decades that have been looking into this topic for the U.S. government and by the U.S. government.
And okay, just doing similar things to what ATIP did.
Yes, and more robust and much more well funded.
I wonder why they don't fund it as well these days.
There's a reason for that too that I would need permission to talk about.
Ah, shit. I gotta do this race. Spurt, spurt. Yeah, worth it. Worth it, chat.
Treaty. When there's the risk of existential destruction, when this film called The Day After came out and it showed people this is what would actually happen in a nuclear war. And once that was crystal clear to people, including in the Soviet Union where the film was aired in 1987 or 1989, that helped set the conditions for Reagan and Gorbachev to sign the first non-proliferation arms control talks. Once we had clarity about an outcome that we wanted to avoid. And I think the current problem is that we're not having an honest conversation in the public about which world we're heading to that is not in anyone's interest.
There's also just a bunch of cases through history where there was a threat, a collective threat, and despite the education, people didn't change, countries didn't change, because the incentives were so high. So I think of global warming as being an example where, for many decades since I was a kid, I remember watching my dad sitting me down and saying, listen, you've got to watch this Inconvenient Truth thing with Al Gore.
Yep.
And sitting on the sofa, I don't know, must have been less than 10 years old, and hearing about the threat of global warming. But when you look at how countries like China responded to that, they just don't have the economic incentive to
Hot
scale
spring
back
ticket.
production to the levels
Holy
that would be needed
moly.
to save the atmosphere.
The closer the technology that needs to be governed is to the center of GDP and the center of the lifeblood of your economy,
Yeah,
the harder it is to come to international negotiation and agreement.
yeah.
And oil and fossil fuels was the kind of the pumping the heart of our economic superorganisms that are currently competing for power. And so coming to agreements on that is really, really hard. AI is even harder because AI pumps not just economic growth, but scientific, technological, and military advantages. And so it will be the hardest coordination challenge that we will ever face. But if we don't face it, if we don't make some kind of choice, it will end in tragedy. We're not in a race just to have technological advantage. We're in a race for who can better govern that technology's impact on society. So for example, the United States beat China to social media. That technology. Did that make us stronger? Did that make us weaker? We have the most anxious and depressed generation of our lifetime. We have the least informed and most polarized generation. We have the worst critical thinking. We have the worst ability to concentrate and do things.
Gold.
And
no.
that's because we did not govern the impact of that technology well. And the country that actually figures out how to govern it well is the country that actually wins in a kind of comprehensive sense.
But they have to make it first. You have to get to AGI first.
Well, or you don't. We could, instead of building these super intelligent gods in a box, right now China, as I understand it from Eric Schmidt and Selena Xu in the New York Times wrote a piece about how China is actually taking a very different approach to AI. And they're focused on narrow, practical applications of AI. So like, how do we just increase government services?
Is that my audio?
絶対はないというが、レースが続くようだが、何？限りは尽くしてこい。注目の一番。次こそ頂点を取ってみせる。
How do we make education better? How do we embed DeepSeek in the WeChat app? How do we make robotics better and pump GDP? So like what China's doing with BYD and making the cheapest electric cars and outcompeting everybody else, that's narrowly applying AI to just pump manufacturing output. And if we realize that if we're, instead of competing to build a super intelligent,
Hell yeah.
uncontrollable god in a box that we don't know how to control in the box, and we instead raced
Toyota.
to create narrow AIs that were actually about making stronger educational outcomes, stronger agriculture output, stronger manufacturing output, we could live in a sustainable world, which, by the way, wouldn't replace all the jobs faster than we know how to retrain people. Because when we race to AGI, you're racing to displace millions of workers. And we talk about UBI, but are we going to have a global fund for every single person of the 8 billion people on planet Earth in all countries to pay for their lifestyle after that wealth gets concentrated? When has a small group of people concentrated all the wealth in the economy and never consciously redistributed it to everybody else? When has that happened in history?
Never. Has it ever happened? Anyone ever just willingly redistribute the wealth?
Not that I'm aware of. One last thing. When Elon Musk says that the Optimus Prime robot is a $1 trillion market opportunity alone, what he means is, I am going to own the global labor economy, meaning that people won't have labor jobs.
China wants to become the global leader in artificial intelligence by 2030. To achieve this goal, Beijing is deploying industrial policy tools across the full AI technology stack, from chips to applications, and this expansion of AI industrial policy leads to two questions, which is what will they do with this power and who will get there first? This is an article I was reading earlier. But to your point about Elon and Tesla, they've changed their company's mission. It used to be about accelerating sustainable energy, and they changed it really last week when they did the shareholder announcement, which I watched the full thing of, to sustainable abundance. And it was, again, another moment where I messaged both everybody that works in my companies, but also my best friend. And I said, you've got to watch this shareholder announcement. I showed them the condensed version of it, because not only was I shocked by these humanoid robots that were dancing on stage untethered, because their movements had become very human-like, and there was a bit of like uncanny valley watching these robots dance. But broadly, the bigger thing was Elon talking about there being up to 10 billion humanoid robots, and then talking about some of the applications. He said maybe we won't need prisons, because we could make a humanoid robot follow you and make sure you don't commit a crime again. He said that in his incentive package, which he's just signed, which will grant him up to $1 trillion in remuneration, part of that incentive package incentivizes him to get, I think it's 1 million humanoid robots into civilization that can do everything a human can do, but do it better. He said the humanoid robots would be 10x better than the best surgeon on Earth. So we wouldn't even need surgeons doing operations. You wouldn't want a surgeon to do an operation. And so when I think about job loss in the context of everything we've described, Doug McMillon, the Walmart CEO, also said that their company employs 2.1 million people worldwide, said every single job we've got is going to change because of this sort of combination of humanoid robots, which people think are far away, which is a crazy.
But they're not that far away, though.
They just went on sale. No, was it now? They're terrible, but they're doing it to train them in household situations. And Elon's now saying production will start very, very soon on humanoid robots in America. I don't know what. When I hear this, I go, okay, this thing's going to be smarter than me, and it's going to be able to. It's built to navigate through the environment, pick things up, lift things. You've got the physical part. You've got the intelligence part.
Yeah.
Where do we go?
Well, I think people also say, okay, but 200 years ago, 150 years ago, everybody was a farmer, and now only 2% of people are farmers. Humans always find something new to do. We had the elevator man, and now we have automated elevators. We had bank tellers, now we have automated teller machines. So humans will always just find something else to do. But why is AI different than that?
Because it's intelligence.
Because it's general intelligence that means that rather than a technology that automates just bank tellers, this is automating all forms of human cognitive labor, meaning everything that a human mind can do. So who's going to retrain faster? You moving to that other kind of cognitive labor? Or the AI that is trained on everything and can multiply itself by 100 million times, and it's retraining how to do that other kind of labor?
In a world of humanoid robots where if Elon's right and he's got a track record of delivering, at least to some degree, and there are millions,
wow,
tens of millions,
dude,
or
are you
billions
kidding
of
me?
humanoid robots, what do me and you do? Like, what is it that's human that is still valuable? Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Dude,
I mean,
the
we can hug, I guess humanoid
returns.
robots are going to be less good at hugging people.
I think everywhere where people value human connection and a human relationship, those jobs will stay because what we value in that work is the human relationship, not the performance of the work. And But that's not to justify that we should just race as fast as possible to disrupt a billion jobs without a transition plan where no one, how are you going to put food on the table for your family?
But these companies are competing geographically again. So if, I don't know, Walmart doesn't change its whole supply chain, its warehousing, its how it's doing its factory work, its farm work, its shop floors, staff work, then they're going to have less profits and a worse business and less opportunity to grow than the company in Europe that changes all of its back-end infrastructure to robots. So they're going to be a huge corporate disadvantage. So they have to.
What AI represents is the zenithification of that competitive logic. The logic of, if I don't do it, I'll lose to the other guy that will.
Is that true?
That's what they believe.
Is that true for sort of companies in America?
Well, just as you said, if Walmart doesn't automate their workforce and their supply chains with robots, and all their competitors did, then Walmart would get obsoleted. If the military that doesn't create autonomous weapons doesn't want to because they think that's more ethical, but all the other militaries do get autonomous weapons, they're just going to lose.
Yeah.
If the student who's using ChatGPT to do their homework for them is going to fall behind by not doing that when all their other classmates are using ChatGPT to cheat, they're going to lose. But as we're racing to automate all of this, we're landing in a world where in the case of the students, they didn't learn anything. In the case of the military weapons, we end up in crazy Terminator-like war scenarios that no one actually wants. In the case of businesses, we end up disrupting billions of jobs and creating mass outrage and public riots on the streets because people don't have food on the table. And so, much like climate change or these kind of collective action problems of the ozone hole, we're kind of creating...
What is this? What is this? What is this? Are you serious? Guts, 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 guts. Fuck yourself. My goodness, bro. Dude, it was 8 off from 3-star potential power, but like I got guts. Like, dude, and this is actually not bad. I mean, that's not good. That's okay, but I got Home to Taste, Master Bow, and Encolor Savvy. Like, still, it's just whatever. But man.
目を見張るものばかりだったな。
Oh, what's this? Play complete gears. Plays top 3 in Shane Shocks in career. Oh, okay.
日々の行くとしようか。基礎的なトレーニング任せてほしい。
Holy shit. Well, just give me groundwork. Might as well get it. In case Gulch doesn't give it to me. That's crazy.
始めよう。基礎的なトレーニング承知した。少しばかり 疲れが溜まっているよ
Man. Of course I'm sleep deprived.
Creating a badness hole through the result of all these individual competitive actions that are supercharged by AI.
Yeah,
interesting 'cause in
2
all those
times in
examples
a
you
row
made,
you're gonna sleep
the people
deprive
that are
me,
building
huh?
those companies, whether it's the companies building the autonomous AI-powered war machinery, the first thing they'll say is, we currently have humans dying on the battlefield. If you let me build this autonomous drone or this autonomous robot that's going to go fight in this for adversary's land, no humans are going to die anymore. And I think this is a broader point about how this technology is framed, which is, I can guarantee you at least one positive outcome. So, and you can't guarantee me the downside. You can't.
But if that war escalates,
3 times
into-
in a row. Yeah,
the reason
game.
that the Soviet Union and the United States have never directly fought each other is because
This friend's already
belief is
screwed.
it would escalate into World War III and nuclear escalation. If China and the U.S. were ever to be in direct conflict, there's a concern that you would escalate into nuclear escalation. So it looks good in the short term, but then what happens when it cybernetically sort of everything gets chain reactioned into everybody escalating in ways that causes many more humans to die?
I think what I'm saying is the downside appears to be philosophical, whereas the upside appears to be real and measurable and tangible right now.
But how is it if the automated weapon gets fired and it leads to, again, a cascade of all these other automated responses, and then those automated responses get these other automated responses and these other automated responses, and then suddenly the automated war planners start moving the troops around, and suddenly you've created this sort of escalatory loss of control spiral.
Yeah.
And
Which is
and then humans will be involved in that. And then if that escalates, you get nuclear weapons pointed at each other.
Do you see what I'm saying? But this again is a sort of a more philosophical domino effect argument. Whereas when they're building these technologies, these drones, they're saying with AI in them, they're saying, look, from day one, we won't have American lives lost.
But
So
that's
it's
a narrow,
more compelling.
It's a narrow boundary analysis on, whereas this machine, you could have put a human at risk. Now there's no human at risk because there's no human who's firing the weapon. It's a machine firing the weapon. That's a narrow boundary analysis without looking at the holistic effects on how it would actually happen. Just like,
Which we're bad at.
which is exactly what we have to get good at. AI is like a rite of passage. It's an initiatory experience because if we run the old logic of having a narrow boundary analysis, this is going to replace these jobs that people didn't want to do. Sounds like a great plan. But creating mass joblessness without a transition plan, where a billion people won't be able to put food on the table. AI is forcing us to not make this mistake of this narrow analysis. What got us here is everybody racing for the narrow optimization for GDP at the cost of social mobility and mass sort of joblessness and people not being able to get a home because we aggregated all the wealth in one place. It was optimizing for a narrow metric. What got us to the social media problems is everybody optimizing for a narrow metric of eyeballs at the expense of democracy and kids' mental health and addiction and loneliness and no one knowing it, being able to know anything. And so AI is inviting us to step out of the previous narrow blind spots that we have come with and the previous competitive logic that has been narrowly defined that you can't keep running when it's supercharged by AI. So you could say, this is an optimistic take, because AI is inviting us to be the wisest version of ourselves. And there's no definition of wisdom in literally any wisdom tradition that does not involve some kind of restraint. Like, think about all the wisdom traditions. Do any of them say, go as fast as possible and think as narrowly as possible? The definition of wisdom is having a more holistic picture. It's actually acting with restraint and mindfulness and care. And so AI is asking us to be that version of ourselves. And we can choose not to be, and then we end up in a bad world. Or we can step into being what it's asking us to be and recognize the collective consequences that we can't afford to not face. And I believe, as much as what we've talked about is really hard, that there is another path if we can be clear-eyed about the current one ending in a place that people don't want.
We will get into that path because I really want to get practical and specific about what. I think before we started recording, we talked about a scenario where we sit here maybe in 10 years' time and we say how we did manage to grab hold of the steering wheel and turn it.
Yep.
So I'd like to think through that as well. But just to close off on this piece about the impact on jobs, it does feel largely inevitable to me that there's going to be a huge amount of job loss And it does feel highly inevitable to me because of the things going on with humanoid robots, with the advance towards AGI, that the biggest industries in the world won't be operated and run by humans. If we even you're at my house at the moment, so you walked past the car in the driveway. There's 2 electric cars in the driveway that drive themselves.
Yep.
I think the biggest employer in the world is driving, and I don't know if you've ever had an experience in a full self-driving car, but it's very hard to ever go back to driving again.
Right.
And again, in the shareholder letter that was announced recently, he said within 1 or 2 months, there won't even be a steering wheel or pedals in the car, and I'll be able to text and work while I'm driving. We're not going to go back. I don't think we're going to go back.
On certain things, we have crossed certain thresholds, and we're going to automate those jobs and that work.
Do you think there will be immense job loss? Irrespective, you think there will be?
Absolutely. We're already there. We already saw Eric Bernholfsen and his group at Stanford did the recent study off of payroll data, which is direct data from employers, that there's been a 13% job loss in AI-exposed jobs for young entry-level college workers. So if you're a college-level worker, you just graduated, and you're doing something in an AI-exposed area, there's already been a 13% job loss. And that data was probably from May, even though it got published in August. And having spoken to him recently, it looks like that trend is already continuing. And so we're already seeing this automate a lot of the jobs and a lot of the work. And, either an AI company is going to, if you work in AI and you're one of the top AI scientists, then Mark Zuckerberg will give you $1 billion signing bonus, which is what he offered to one of the AI people. Or you won't have a job. That wasn't quite right. Let me say that the way that I want to. I was just trying to make the point that.
No, I
Yeah.
get the point.
Yeah. I just want to say that for a moment. My goal here was not to sound like we're just admiring how catastrophic the problem is, because I just know how easy it is to fall into that trap. And what I really care about is people not feeling good about the current path, so that we're maximally motivated to choose another path. Obviously, there's a bunch of AI. Some cats are out of the bag. But the lions and super lions that are yet to come have not yet been released. And there is always choice from where you are to which future you want to go to from there.
There are few sports that I make time for, no matter where I am in the world, and one of them is, of course, football. The other is MMA, but watching that abroad usually requires a VPN. I spend so much time traveling. I've just spent the last 2.5 months traveling through Asia and Europe and now back here in the United States. And as I'm traveling, there are so many different shows that I want to watch on TV or on some streaming websites. So when I was traveling through Asia and I was in Kuala Lumpur one day, then the next day I was in Hong Kong, and the next day I was in Indonesia, all of those countries had a different streaming provider, a different broadcaster. And so in most of those countries, I had to rely on ExpressVPN, who are a sponsor of this podcast. Their tool is private.
And then the question is still, who's going to pay for people's livelihoods? So the math, as I understand it, doesn't currently seem to work out where everyone can get a stipend to pay for their whole life and life quality that as they currently know it. And are a handful of Western or US-based AI companies going to consciously distribute that wealth to literally everyone, meaning including all the countries around the world whose entire economy was based on a job category that got eliminated? So for example, places like the Philippines, where a huge percent of the jobs are customer service jobs. If that got automated away, are we going to have OpenAI pay for all of the Philippines? Do you think that people in the US are going to prioritize that? So then you end up with the problem of, you have law firms that are currently not wanting to hire junior lawyers because, well, the AI is way better than a junior lawyer who just graduated from law school. So you have two problems. You have the law student that just put in a ton of money and is in debt because they just got a law degree that now they can't get hired to pay off. And then you have law firms whose longevity depends on senior lawyers being trained from being a junior lawyer to a senior lawyer. What happens when you don't have junior lawyers that are actually learning on the job to become senior lawyers? You just have this sort of elite managerial class for each of these domains. So you lose intergenerational knowledge transmission.
Interesting.
And that creates a societal weakening in the social fabric.
I was watching some podcasts over the weekend with some successful billionaires who are working in AI, talking about how they now feel that we should forgive student loans.
Yeah.
And I think in part this is because of what's happened in New York with is it Mandani?
Yeah, Mamdani, yeah.
Mamdani's been elected, and they're concerned that socialism's on the rise because the entry-level junior people in the society are suppressed under student debt, but also now they're going to struggle to get jobs, which means they're going to be more socialist in their voting, which means
Right.
a lot of people are going to lose power that want to keep power.
Yep, exactly. That's probably going to happen.
Okay. So their concern about suddenly alleviating student debt is in part because they're worried that society will get more socialist when the divide increases.
Which is a version of UBI, or just carrying, a safety net that covers everyone's basic needs. So relieving student debt is on the way to creating kind of universal basic need meeting, right?
Do you think UBI will work as a concept? UBI, for anyone that doesn't know, is basically
Universal basic income that
Distributing
everybody
money.
gets a stipend.
giving people money every
Right.
month.
But I mean, we have that with Social Security. We've done this when it came to pensions. That was after the Great Depression, I think in like 1935, 1937, FDR created Social Security. But what happens when you have to pay for everyone's livelihood everywhere in every country? Again, how can we afford that?
Well, if the costs go down 10x of making things,
This is where the math gets very confusing, because I think the optimists say you can't imagine how much abundance and how much wealth it will create, and so we will be able to generate that much. But the question is, what is the incentive again for the people who've consolidated all that wealth to redistribute it to everybody else?
we just have to tax them.
And how will we do that when the corporate lobbying interests of trillion-dollar AI companies can massively influence the government more than human political power? In a way, this is the last moment that human political power will matter. It's sort of a use it or lose it moment, because if we wait to the point where in the past, in the Industrial Revolution, we start automating, a bunch of the work, and people have to do these jobs that people don't want to do in the factory, and there's like bad working conditions, they can unionize and say, hey, we don't want to work under those conditions. And their voice mattered because the factories needed the workers. In this case, does the state need the humans anymore? Their GDP is coming in almost entirely from the AI companies. So suddenly this political class, this political power base, they become the useless class, to borrow a term from Yuval Harari, the author of *Sapiens*.
Gold, man.
In fact, he has a different frame, which is that AI is like a new version of digital. It's like a flood of millions of new digital immigrants, of alien digital immigrants that are Nobel Prize level capability, work at superhuman speed, will work for less than minimum wage. We're all worried about, immigration of the other countries next door taking labor jobs. What happens when AI immigrants come in and take all of the cognitive labor? If you're worried about immigration, you should be way more worried about AI. Like,
Obviously.
it dwarfs it.
Yeah.
You can think of it like this. I mean, if you think about, we were sold a bill of goods in the 1990s with NAFTA. We said, hey, we're going to, NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, we're going to outsource all of our manufacturing to these developing countries, China, Southeast Asia, and we're going to get this abundance. We're going to get all these cheap goods, and it'll create this world of abundance where all of us will be better off. But what did that do? Well, we did get all these cheap goods. You can go to Walmart and go to Amazon, and things are unbelievably cheap. But it hollowed out the social fabric. And the median worker is not seeing upward mobility. In fact, people feel more pessimistic about that than ever. And people can't buy their own homes. And all of this is because we did get the cheap goods, but we lost the well-paying jobs for everybody in the middle class. And AI is like another version of NAFTA. It's like NAFTA 2.0. Except instead of China appearing on the world stage who will do the manufacturing labor for cheap, suddenly this country of geniuses in a data center created by AI appears on the world stage. And it will do all of the cognitive labor in the economy for less than minimum wage. And we're being sold a same story. This is going to create abundance for all, but it's creating abundance in the same way that the last round created abundance. It did create cheap goods, but it also undermined the way that the social fabric works and created mass populism in democracies all around the world. You disagree?
No, I agree. I agree.
Well, I'm not, I'm...
Yeah, no, I'm trying to play devil's advocate as much as I can.
Yeah, please, yeah.
But no, I agree. And it is absolutely bonkers how much people care about immigration relative to AI. It's like it's driving all the election outcomes at the moment across the world. And
Yeah.
Whereas AI doesn't seem to be part of the conversation.
And AI will reconstitute every other issue that already exists. If you care about climate change or energy, well, AI will reconstitute the climate change conversation. If you care about education, AI will reconstitute that conversation. If you care about healthcare, AI reconstitutes all these conversations. And what I think people need to do is AI should be a tier 1 issue that people are voting for. And you should only vote for politicians who will make it a tier 1 issue, where you want guardrails to have a conscious selection of an AI future and the narrow path to a better AI future, rather than the default reckless path.
No one's even mentioning it. And when I hear
Well, it's
about
because there's no political incentives to mention it, because there's no good answer for the current outcome.
yeah,
If I mention it, if I tell people, if I get people to see it clearly, it looks like everybody loses. So as a politician, why would I win from that? Although I do think that as the job loss conversation starts to hit, there's going to be an opportunity for politicians who are trying to mitigate that issue finally getting, some wins. And people just need to see clearly that the default path is not in their interest. The default path is companies racing to release the most powerful, inscrutable, uncontrollable technology we've ever invented, with the maximum incentive to cut corners on safety, rising energy prices, depleting jobs, creating joblessness, creating security risks. That is the default outcome, because energy prices are going up. They will continue to go up. People's jobs will be disrupted, and we're going to get more, deep fakes and floods of democracy and all these outcomes from the default path. And if we don't want that, we have to choose a different path.
what is the different path? And if we were to sit here in 10 years' time and you say, and Tristan, you say, do you know what, we were successful in turning the wheel and going a different direction, what series of events would have had to happen, do you think? Because I think the AI companies very much have support from Trump. I watch the dinners where they sit there with the 20, 30 leaders of these companies, and Trump is talking about how quickly they're developing, how fast they're developing. He's referencing China. He's saying he wants the US to win. So, I mean, in the next couple of years, I don't think there's going to be much progress in the United States necessarily.
Unless there's a massive political backlash because people recognize that this issue will dominate every other issue.
How does that happen?
Hopefully, conversations like this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what I mean is, Neil Postman, who's a wonderful media thinker in the lineage of Marshall McLuhan, used to say, clarity is courage. If people have clarity and feel confident the current path is leading to a world that people don't want, that's not in most people's interests, that clarity creates the courage to say, yeah, I don't want that. So I'm going to devote my life to changing the path that we're currently on. That's what I'm doing, and that's what I think that people who take this on, I watch, if you walk people through this and you have them see the outcome, almost everybody right afterwards says, what can I do to help? Obviously, this is something that we have to change. And so that's what I want people to do, is to advocate for this other path. And we haven't talked about AI companions yet, but I think it's important that we should do that. I think it's important to integrate that before you get to the other path.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, by the way, no apologies, but there's so much information to cover, and
Do you know what's interesting? Is a side point is how personal this feels to you, but how passionate you are about it. A lot of people come here and they tell me the matter-of-fact situation, but there's something that feels more sort of emotionally personal when we speak about these subjects to you, and I'm fascinated by that. Why is it so personal to you? Where is that passion coming from? Because this isn't just your prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain. There's something in your limbic system, your amygdala, that's driving every word you're saying.
I care about people. I want things to go well for people. I want people to look at their children in the eyes and be able to say, like, I think I grew up maybe under a false assumption, and something that really influenced my life was, I used to have this belief that there was some adults in the room somewhere, like we're doing our thing here, we're in LA, we're recording this, and there's some adults protecting the country, national security. There's some adults who are making...
Oh my god, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Whoops. Well. Can be used for something. These two are bad, but at least I got firm haste and go with the flow. I mean, it is 8 stars, right? Man, that's crazy. Unfortunate. Oh, I wish it was better rolled. Pretty shitty outside in cold weather. Cold weather, cold weather. Oof. Oh, so cool. New game news? What do we have? Oh, part 2 of our fall celebration. Yeah, they're giving us a lot of carrots now, dude. That's freaking crazy. Legend races are here. Oh. We're offering a helping hand to get you to Peak of URA finale. 1,500 carrots? That's crazy. Yeah, they actually gave us more carrots, dude. They're crazy. They're giving people like 50 bucks worth of value overall. Damn, I keep losing. I was doing well earlier, but now my team just sucks. Maybe I'll do the lowest team. Oh! Okay. So the 5. 4 sucks. Cool. Did I already claim? I did claim everything. So okay. What about Legend? Oh, it's not here yet. I gotta keep doing this. I cannot give up. I can't give up. Here we go. Last bar for the day. I don't think I'll make a better Rudolph, honestly. I hate Rudolph. See, it's a little dark right now. Let me turn the light on. There we go. Alright. Nothing special. Ooh, nice. Oh, that one. Hell yeah, brother. 4% chance. Oh, wow. That was quick. Flustered pace closers. Not great. Trade descent. Good enough. I'm getting a lot of hints right now. It's pretty good. I'll take standard. Let's see how this race goes. Wow.
これが皇帝の走りだ。準備は
I guess that. Give me a hot topic.
日々の積み重ねを怠るなど不幸。 承知した。承知。
Straight away spurt. Dude, you're not gonna go on a move down right now. There's no way you're gonna like piss me off with this stuff.
上手。始め
All
よ
right. Ooh, Ankler's Savvy. I will take that.
指導に任せてほしい。
注目の一番人気
見たか。
Ooh, first place with Miles C. That is a rare sight. Very rare.
日々の
Umaston, groundwork, give me something good. You know what? Fine. I'll just take that again.
準備。始めよう。
Skill points.
上手。
Nope. Jeez, man. Like,
任せてほしい。
they're never together. This is just rough.
疲れ。少し。注目の次こそ頂点を取ってみせる。
Energy.
日々の
Oh, no.
少しは疲れがな指導にまよろしくお願いします
Oh, come on, man. Give me an event.
よろしくお願いします
I'll take medium corners.
上手よっしゃ買いますか
Right shower. That's not what I wanted.
疲れが少し
Ooh, gold. Maybe a long S.
見えない力に後押しされているようだ
Or just 2 skills, which is fine by me.
ここは負けられん
唯一抜きん出て並ぶものなしだな 今日はやる気で溢れている皇帝の名に恥じない走りができそうだ
Wow. Ow! Give me Umaston, groundwork, or nothing. You can do that too while you're at it. I hate you, lady. I hate you. I'll do it again.
始めよう
Straight away spurt. Very good. Alright, chat. I do have to go eat some food. I'm gonna do some Arc Raiders later tonight, so if you guys want to watch me do some solo runs, that'd be fun. I might do some Moom Up, but I do have to go and prep up some food. So thanks for everyone who was watching. I hope you all have a great night and take care. Peace.